What's up, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Married 15 to Life. I'm the husband.
I'm the wife.
Jess, how you doing, honey?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you for asking.
Not like we haven't talked to each other all morning. But.
I know, and all week, and all month, and all the last 15 years now. Oh, man, but we're excited to bring you guys another episode today. This is, again, we hope you enjoyed the pilot, and we hope you are excited about all that's coming. We figured for the next episode of this, let's just go back to where this all started. Let's just go back to how we came into each other's lives. Before that, though, for everybody that's listening to this, I think everybody has different opinions or different ideas on when dating should begin. I'll start and just say, for me, I did not date at all in high school. I had one date in high school, and it was taking a girl to my junior prom. That was the only date I ever had in high school. For two reasons. Growing up in my house, my dad would have loved it if I went on a bunch of dates, and my mom was a little bit more skeptical about it. But just growing up, going to the school I went to, I was a very awkward teenager because I was very good. I didn't like getting in trouble. I didn't like breaking rules. And so typically boys like me didn't have girlfriends because girls, for some reason in high school, are stupid and want bad boys. But I'm for judging from the look on your face, you were not that type of girl. So why don't you tell everybody what your dating life looked like when you were a teenager?
I didn't date at all when I was a teenager. I honestly, neither did my friends. I had like one friend that had a boyfriend, but we just did things as like a group. Nobody, like I went to a very small Christian school, and the boys around us were like our brothers. Like we grew up with them. And so that nobody really dated each other. And then I ended up moving to a public school, having a lot of health issues, and that's a whole other story.
Yeah, we definitely will get into that.
But having a boyfriend or anything like that was like the last thing on my mind. And so I didn't go on a date until I think my sophomore year of college. I was like 20. And yeah, so I also, as a teenager, I just felt like, what was the point? Like, I don't know. I wasn't in a dating for like marriage at that age.
Did boys ask you out when you were a teenager?
No, not at all.
Yeah, girls didn't give me much attention.
But like I said, like it just wasn't, like I said, the small school, like none of my friends did. It just wasn't, we all went to prom as a group.
Right.
And then with all the health issues and stuff, it was the last thing on my mind.
Now, looking back, I think a lot of people would argue the way you and I did things was probably the healthy way to do things. But when you look back with the relationships, and we're not gonna dive into our exes because it's not about that. But looking into relationships before each other, do you kind of wish that you had at least, I don't want to say started pushing the pedal down, but do you wish that maybe you had gone on any kind of dates before college?
I don't know. Like, I just think it wasn't the right time because of all the stuff I was going through.
Right.
But I do think, it's healthy for some people to date casual, like not to be so serious. Like we grew up in a time in the church where it was a serious thing. Like you dated for marriage, really.
Yeah.
And I don't necessarily think it has to be that.
No.
But, also I think it protected my heart from getting too serious because I don't think I'm the type of person that could just casually date someone and not care about them.
No, me neither.
So I don't know. I didn't have a lot of friends of the opposite sex. It really wasn't an issue for me, but
did you have crushes?
Not really. Like I just wasn't in that place. I remember when I was going through the health stuff and listening to some of my friends in the public school talk about their boyfriends and all this stuff. And I just felt like I'm dealing with life and death stuff right now. And
right.
I just remember just being so frustrated. Like, your biggest problem is this boy likes you or doesn't like you. I remember just being so frustrated with it. So I wasn't in the right frame of mind. And I do remember thinking a lot about my future husband and the qualities of like what I would like in a future husband and praying for him.
Right.
But I don't know. I just didn't really have crushes on people. Not really.
Yeah. Growing up, I crushed hard. Probably it's a difference of men and women, but I had crushes on several girls throughout my teenage years, and tried to act on some of them. But again, there was something. Also, for those of you that most of you listeners probably know this, I grew up in a biblical home where my grandfather was the pastor of my church. And I think a lot of girls maybe felt intimidated by that, dating this. I'm not a celebrity by any stretch of the imagination, but if the preacher's oldest grandson is in a relationship, what's that girlfriend like? And so I wonder if maybe a lot of girls thought that was a little bit weird, for that. Plus, everybody had an idea that David wants to eventually do this too. Do I want to date someone that's going to be always talking about the Bible and always going to be preaching and always going to be on stage and things like that? So I think there may have been a little bit of that. I would like to hope there wasn't, because I tried to quote unquote act normal, but Jessica will tell you, my brain is wired very differently when it comes to church, especially. So I think that maybe a lot of people wanted that guy that would be on a skateboard or would, want to drive a pickup truck or wanted to go hunting or things like that. And that just wasn't me.
Our past is what made us who we are today. And
Right.
so I think for us, I wouldn't change anything.
Me neither.
Because I do feel like my heart was protected a lot more than if I had had a lot of relationships and gotten serious with different people. So I'm okay with it. I'm good with it.
I am too. My first serious girlfriend was in college as well, sophomore year also. It's funny how our paths paralleled that. I dated 2 girls before you. How many boys did you date before me?
2, but one was more serious than the other.
Yeah.
And one just like my first boyfriend was just kind of casual. So
yeah, my first
couple dates and it didn't work
my
out.
first girlfriend was more serious than my second one, but yeah, I treasure those memories because they also helped me realize what I really wanted, and
Right.
and I think that's the only pro I would give to dating correctly. Again, we believe in the biblical mandate of dating and the way you need to be pure when you
Right.
finally get married, and you don't need to cross lines, and you want to protect you, because as my dad would always say, David, when you date a girl, you potentially are dating somebody else's wife. So treasure her until she does become yours. And the also biggest piece of advice my father gave me was, David, you need to strive to be a man who the woman falls in love with you because of how much you love Jesus, not how much you love her. And if you have a relationship with God that is that real and that true, where you love Jesus more than anything else in this world, the right girl will be attracted to that.
And I
that
think
was
we
important
had
to
2
me.
different college experiences as well.
Yeah.
You went to a Christian college, so
Which means nothing.
I know, but you did have probably more Christians around you than
Yeah,
I had at
true.
a public state college. And I remember just being so frustrated because I did want to date in college, and it just felt like everyone around me was in the party scene.
Mm-hmm.
And I was not interested in that at all. I've always been the type that wants to go to bed at 9:00, and I don't want to go out late. I did not.
Was there ever a moment in your time, mom and dad aren't here, I can actually, okay.
I am like an 80-year-old at heart. I was never interested in the party scene. I was never I went to 8:00 a.m. classes. So I was in bed by, 10 o'clock. I stayed home and watched Friends on DVD. I was not looking for that college experience. And it felt like so many people around me were. And so trying to find a person that I had similar beliefs with,
Right.
it was really hard. So.
Yep. So I had the same thing. I dated one girl in college, and then my senior year of college, I did not date. I asked a few girls out and I hung out with some friends, but it wasn't until post-college that I came back home and began serving in my home church, but also helping a few small churches around my home church, that I began, thinking to myself, okay, I'm out of college now. I know what I'm going to do with the rest of my life. Is it time to start seriously looking for the right person in my life? Mm-hmm. And I dated one girl out of college, and I dated her, unfortunately, with the wrong intention. I dated her basically as an audition. Is this the person God wants me to be with? Instead of letting things organically happen. And my heart got shattered because of that, because she did not want to move that fast and was not thinking about marriage at all. And in the process of that, the Lord really began dealing with me, going, David, you've got to get to the place where if you never get married, that's okay, because you have me. And I want to encourage all the single young adults out there right now. If you follow Christ, you have to find yourself to that place. You have to be content with just being with him. And if you never get married, that's okay. You found Jesus and he's your first love. Because once you get to that place and you can find a way to live there, then that's when God says, now I can trust you with the right person.
Well,
So
and I
it's
think
very important.
in my head too, I was so ready to, because when we met, I was like in my senior year of college, and I remember just feeling like I'm ready. All I've ever wanted to be is a wife and a mom. Like, I'm ready for that next part of my life.
Yeah.
And the only thing I would have said to myself is, I wish I would have enjoyed and appreciated the season I was in at the time.
Yeah,
Because
so
you
true.
never get that time back. Like back when I was just responsible for myself, and I could be really totally selfish with my life and what I wanted to do and what I wanted to eat, and and I miss
Your money's your money. Your time is your time.
I wouldn't change anything, but if I could tell myself anything from back then, it would be like, just slow down and enjoy this. I was so ready for like the next part,
Yeah.
and I didn't enjoy the season that I was in when I was in it.
I know. And it's funny, our parents and adults say those things to us,
I know.
and we're just so stupid we don't realize it. But now, of course, we're going to say it to our kids.
But it's like your life is never like that again,
Right.
ever.
No.
Like now, no matter if we're on a vacation or whatever we're doing, I'm always focused on what is our kids doing? What is my
Yes.
family doing? Like
Yes.
I always have that. And before I had a family of my own, I truly was pretty much carefree with life,
Yeah.
So anyway, I wouldn't change anything. I love being a wife and a mom, but I wish I had appreciated it more and not like been so like focused on,
Same.
So
Same. I had ambitions, and I began songwriting and things like that when I was a single young man. And looking back now, there's a lot of things that I want to do now when I'm approaching my 40s that I'm like, I could have done that when I was a young 20-year-old. I could have done a lot of these things that I'm wanting to dabble in now and try and see, can I still do that? And now when you're a husband and you're a father and you're full-time in ministry and you've got all these other commitments on your plate, now that dessert you want to eat now, you can't because you don't have the time. You don't have you got to put the right things forward and have the right priorities. And so, so I mean, we've said it now twice. If you're out there and you're single, treasure your single years. I mean, Paul even writes and says to the church and says, if you can remain single, do it, because you can do even more for the kingdom if you're single, because then your only priority responsibility is to your relationship with Christ. You don't have to worry about stewarding a wife and stewarding a family. So no, but 100%. So, but having said all of that, so we both went through a couple of relationships that weren't the right person. And we were also at this time very active in our churches where we were. You were attending your uncle's church in Mobile.
I wasn't super active. When we met, I did go to church every single Sunday and Wednesday. I guess you could call that active. I wasn't serving in any type of role because I was in nursing school. And that was a full-time job and commitment. If you've ever been through nursing school, it's a whole thing.
What are you talking about? It's easy as everything. You can do it in 2 years.
I lived, slept, breathed nursing school for those 2 years. So when we met, I was thick in the middle of that. Like
Right.
actually close to 10 months before graduation or something like that, or a year out from graduation.
Yeah.
So I was in the middle of that when we met.
Yeah, and like I said, I'd had my degree, and I was beginning to use a little bit of it in young adult ministries, and still leading worship at smaller churches, and singing at my home church as much as I possibly could. But yeah, there just came a point where I began looking around my home church, and I began looking around the churches I was serving in, and I just began to realize there's no one in my circles right now that I feel I want to give my time to, and the ones that potentially I could give my time to, there's something that just doesn't feel right about it. And and looking back now, I know it was the Holy Spirit, but at the time there was just something that was like sandpaper inside of me. Like, could I eventually, could this maybe work? Yeah, but I don't think I want to put in the time to find out if it is. I just don't think it's the right person. And so we both turned, ironically, to the very same medium to test the waters and see, could this potentially be where we find our person? And so shameless plug, I think it does still exist. We both went on christianmingle.com.
And that was back in the day, really before a lot of people were doing internet dating, and internet dating was still like real scary. And I remember just feeling, like I said, like I'm in this college experience where I'm not finding a lot of like-minded people.
Right.
Definitely, I want my future husband to, be a Christian and all of this. And I wasn't finding a lot of that. And so I just thought, well, this is a Christian.
Can't hurt.
This is a Christian website, which God totally protected us, because we could
Yes,
have
we did.
totally been.
Well, again,
And I think it was a different day and age too.
well, I mean, it was scary. Let's back up here. The reason it was a scary thing for us is because it was so new. Back then, the predominant
But I
way to
feel
meet
like
people
there
was face to
wasn't-
face.
Now there's so many scammers on there, and so many
Yes,
people
people
who,
now have figured out how to use it for the wrong reasons,
or like
Yeah.
people that have ill intentions, and there probably was people back then too.
Yeah,
but
but not near as much.
I feel like it was, especially the one we used. I talked to several people on there, and people did seem to be who they said they were.
Yeah, as with anything, when the internet was first created, it was used for the right reasons, and then the evil people are going to do evil things with it. And so,
And of course, I mean, we can get into it, but we were smart.
Yeah.
We didn't just
Yeah.
meet the first time we talked and whatever.
Yeah, and Facebook existed at the same time too. It wasn't the global thing it is now, but yeah, so you could fact check profiles and
That was back
things
in
like
the time when Facebook, you had to have a college
Right.
email
Right.
to have a Facebook account. And so that also felt kind of secure in some ways, because
Right.
I'm like, not that you couldn't have been a bad person, but
Right.
you had, it was some sort of security to know that you were who you said you were, probably.
Right. So you were on Christian Mingle about how long before you and I started talking?
You know what? I'm not really sure, because I had been on it in the past.
For me, about 6 months.
I had been on in the past, but then had some stuff go on, and I rejoined it, or I went on there.
Right.
And it was pretty fast after that we met, like probably like a week or two.
Okay. Yeah, I got on right. It's funny how the holidays make you feel lonely. I got on probably around the Thanksgiving season of 2007 is when I got on. So I was on there for probably 5 to 6 months before you and I started talking. Yeah, probably about then. So if my memory serves me correctly, I believe that's about when it was. I talked to several people, mainly through chat, a couple of phone calls, and there was a couple times we almost met up, but something just did not feel right, or I just didn't feel at peace about something. That's the other thing. Once you decide this is going to no longer be a chat or a person on screen, this is going to become a real thing. Mm-hmm. And you had already done that before you met me. Do you remember how awkward it felt?
It's really awkward. Yeah. But I was like, I've talked about this on my channel a ton, but I am a socially awkward person anyway. So meeting men, boys, figuring out like how to date someone was awkward to me. Anyway.
Right, me too.
So
girls, not boys.
If someone had come up to me and asked me out, that was awkward too. So to me, all of it was awkward. And so having the screening of us being able to talk about our faith right away, even though yes, people could lie or whatever, just they could. It gave me some security, as opposed to just some random person that I met at school or at a restaurant or whatever.
Right. Yeah. And so when you do christianmingle.com, like match.com or whatever other site.com, the first thing they make you do is fill out this long questionnaire, because they want to get as much information about your personality and your hobbies and your likes and dislikes and all of that. Now, believe it or not, there's an app out there called Haters that you can actually do what you hate about the world. So you hate Chinese food, you hate rom-coms, and now they'll match people based on things you don't like. And I'm not sure how I feel about that. I'd rather connect over things that are positive than negative. But that's the world we live in. But needless to say, what they do then is, once they have all of your information, they funnel it through a channel of algorithms, and basically then they begin to show you who they think you will be compatible with. So they match you based on a percentage of 1 to 100, 1 being don't even talk to this person, 100 being your soulmates, basically, by their algorithms. You and I matched at 96%.
I know, that's crazy.
Which was very awkward, and we're still working on that 4%. But
That to me just showed that we probably had similar backgrounds.
Yeah, that there was enough that we could at least try to talk about something.
And a lot of their questions, because it was Christian Mingle,
Right.
they were like more faith-based,
Yeah.
So
In terms of values and, things you uphold as important in your life and things like that. So immediately as we began talking, let's just put it out there. You for a socially awkward person that is also an introvert by nature, who smiled at who first?
on there, to like connect with someone, you could smile at them. It was like before emojis were even a thing on the phones, but
Those
that's
of you
what
that
it
are
was.
Facebook originals, it's when you would poke someone, basically.
Sort of, but
Back
like
in
a
the day.
smile was just like basically saying hi, sort of.
Yeah.
And so I remember seeing your profile. I remember seeing that the number was really high, and I remember smiling at you. And
What'd you think of the face?
I honestly do not even remember.
Okay.
I remember, I obviously smiled at you, so I thought you were cute. But I remember smiling at you, and then it wasn't long before you messaged me. I don't even remember.
Oh, it was within a week.
It's probably
Whenever
within
I
a few
checked it
days,
again,
yeah.
which is probably the same day.
Yeah.
No. That's not even because I was desperate. That was because anybody will tell you when someone texts me.
I know, he has this
I'm
thing.
I'm a thing. That whole running gag of the person who has 500 notifications and the person that their phone is clean with no notifications. That's me. I don't like leaving things
He
undone
does not
or
like
unsaid.
to have undone notifications.
I don't.
I'm that way with messages, like text messages usually. I just do miss them sometimes, but I do let my emails pull out and stuff.
I don't. I can't stand it. I'm such a it may be detail oriented, but I just don't like the idea that I've wasted someone's time
I know.
or that or somebody really needed to talk to me and I didn't get back
Yeah,
with
yeah,
them,
yeah.
things like that. Just get off that rabbit trail. So you smiled at me first. I immediately responded as soon as I saw that you had, and of course you screen everything to read everything that you can. And
I remember
see.
us like checking each other's Facebook pages out.
Yeah.
And I also really liked, one of the reasons I wanted to connect with you is because I saw that you were from Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
And that's another thing about Christian Mingle. You could match with someone all over the country.
World.
Yeah. I feel like most people are.
Yeah, most people at the time. Yeah.
So that was scary too, because it's like, I don't want to match with someone in Seattle.
Right.
That would be really hard.
Well, then, yeah, you would talk and maybe be friends, but you would just know that
That
probably
would be very long distance.
Yeah,
So I
you-
saw that you were from Alabama. We started talking. I looked up your Facebook. We very quickly discovered we had friends in common.
Yep.
Which was weird. Small world. We very quickly discovered that we had been in similar places. Like we went to the same youth camp.
Yeah.
It was a lot of weird connections like that. So I say we met on the internet, but we could have met in person. We had
Yeah.
a lot of similarities
Right.
in our life.
Yeah, I grew up in a church that was not Assemblies of God, but might as well have been because
very similar.
we attended the Assemblies of God camp in Springville, Alabama, for several years. So there's a very good likely chance that even though we definitely
might
went
not
to
have
the
been on
same
the same week.
campground,
I don't
we
know.
may not have been on the same
We
week.
were very different campers though. So
Oh yeah.
he would not
I
have
was
wanted to
the
be friends with
loud,
me.
playing all the games, trying to win points, wanted my
We
team to
hated
win.
the
and
games.
I loved them. I'm very
We
competitive.
tried everything we could to not have to leave our cabin. They would have to make us. We were very different.
Yeah, I was very competitive. And we felt robbed so many years. But finally, my senior year, we won, and I was very excited about it. We worked hard for that. But
And then when you went to Southeastern, some of my
Yeah.
friends that went to Southeastern, you knew them.
Correct.
Very, very bizarre.
Yes.
So
yeah.
that made me feel like, okay, I don't know you,
But stuff's checking out.
but
yeah,
this doesn't seem like you're some like weird troll person.
correct. He's got proof, and he knows people, and he can name people, and yeah.
And then, you told me, this did scare me, that you wanted to be, at the time you told me you wanted to be a music pastor.
Okay, go into that. Why did it scare you?
Because I don't know. I didn't see myself as being a pastor's wife. Not that, honestly.
I thought you were going to say that you were afraid you can't sing
No.
because you
No,
can.
because I was like, back then I wasn't even worried about that. I'm like, I'm not going to sing, so it don't matter. But I remember thinking like, thankfully I didn't know what I was signing up. I didn't know a lot of what that even entailed.
Was it based on watching Ron and Suzanne and watching your uncle and your aunt and your mom and dad? What?
I don't know. I never grew up thinking, I have ministers in my family and all that, but I just never saw myself becoming a pastor. I just never did. A lot of people ask me, well, when were you called to be a pastor's wife? And I'm like,
And spoiler alert, she actually just dropped a video about this on her channel. So
it's been several weeks as you're watching this, but I never felt called to be a pastor's wife. I fell in love with David. He happened to, have this pastoral degree and telling me he wants to be a music pastor. And I remember being like, wow. But I mean, I really liked you and I trusted God and I didn't let that scare me off.
So let's back up just a little bit. When she smiled at me and I began checking her information out, the first thing I thought to myself was, is she red or blonde? Because for those of you that
both,
yeah, Jessica is a very special strawberry blonde, and it's a rare hair color, and a lot of people pay a lot of money to have your hair, and it was very. I'll just be honest, it floored me because typically the girls I was attracted to were darker hair, but there was something special about you. There was something about your smile. There was something about your hair, and there was something about just I could tell from your voice how hardworking you were, and I could tell also how much you loved your family. And I was like, from her voice, yeah, really, I could.
We talked a lot before. Yeah. We talked a lot before we met.
Yeah, we talked for hours on the phone for the first couple of weeks, especially. I remember there was a couple of like youth group and young adult things that I would do, and then like as soon as I would get home, I would call you and tell you all about them and try to catch you up, and you would tell me about nursing school and what you were working on at the time. And yeah, it was interesting to, in a way, basically be in a relationship but never see each other. I
wanted to say this too. Even though we were both in Alabama, I was in the most South Alabama part of Alabama you could be in, and he was in the very north.
University of South Alabama in Mobile. We were,
what is that, 6 or 7 hours apart? And so I remember us having this conversation very early on where you said, I just don't know if I can do long distance.
Yeah,
I just don't know.
Because long distance ended one of my previous relationships, and so it scared me.
I had done some long distance stuff too, and so I was like, I get it, I understand. It's hard. I've done a long distance relationship before, and I remember just being like, I will not have any hard feelings if you don't want to go any further. But we just kept talking.
I know. I was just like, well, that could potentially be an issue, but I'm not going to break this just in case. I have to know if there's something else here.
I mean, we would spend hours at a time.
I remember one time because I was on my parents' phone bill.
Oh, I have stories about that too.
And the time, and there was...
That was back in the day when you only had so many minutes.
Yeah.
We would have to wait until after a certain time to call each other. So remember, like after 9 o'clock, it wasn't...
Yeah, it was like...
you got free minutes or whatever.
Something like that, yeah. But yeah, I remember one Saturday especially. I remember the date too. It was April 12th, 2008. We talked for at least 8 hours.
We just hung out. Like we just went about our day with a phone on our face.
And I had my stupid old Bluetooth thing back when they first started doing Bluetooth, where you had that huge, looked like you had a beetle resting on your ear.
It had to have been a Saturday because that's the only day
it was a Saturday.
I was not involved in nursing school. So
it was a Saturday.
And I don't know how I did that and didn't study.
It was a Saturday because you were coming home the next week.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and we finally arranged, and I said, when are you going to be home next? And you said next Saturday.
Because I am from Birmingham, which is very central Alabama. So we figured the next time I came home,
I would do my best to come down and meet you.
And then we could meet in person.
Yeah, which would have been the following week on April the 19th of 2008. So we talked about everything, family, where we came from. One of your deal breaker questions was, I need you to answer this question.
This was not a deal breaker.
Oh, come on.
It was not.
Come on.
It was I would have not broken up with you or not been interested if you'd said,
liar, pants on fire.
One of the first questions I did ask you is if you were an Alabama fan or an Auburn fan.
To which I responded, Roll Tide.
Yes. And I was like, oh, thank goodness.
Because your dad is an alumni from Alabama.
Yeah.
And season ticket holder and has Alabama stuff all over your house. So
Definitely made it easier.
Yeah, it would have been so much harder if I had been an Auburn fan. Sorry to my loving father, who I love so much, who is an Auburn fan. It's very awkward.
You could have gone either way because your mom's Alabama, your dad's Auburn.
And growing up, I wore Auburn stuff because I wanted to make my dad happy. But as I just grew up and realized I got to pick a side, Alabama was just right for me. And it always has been. I've always been an Alabama fan for the most part since I've actually liked football. But here's the fun part. So we talked for 8 hours on April 12th of 2008. Planning fully to be our first date the following week, April the 19th. And we had gotten to the point of, sharing things with each other as far as, things we were hoping for, things we couldn't wait to talk to each other about, things we
It was
could
really neat, like starting a relationship just focused on learning about the other person. Like there was no physical anything because we were separated. So it really was like we became friends first.
And because of that, something crazy happened.
I didn't know that you were going to talk about this.
That evening, and that was I called her about an hour after we hung up, and I called her, and she said, you want to keep talking? What else you want to talk about?" And I said, "I just need to tell you something. I love you."
I know. And looking back, we were so stupid, I think, but
I don't think so.
We just knew it. You know how people say like love at first sight?
We hadn't seen each other.
We hadn't seen each other.
Just pictures.
But we had talked.
There was no FaceTime. Skype barely existed.
No.
We didn't use it.
No, there was no, I don't remember there being Skype.
I don't think there was a way to video chat back then. Not really.
I mean, but we had spent so many hours talking to each other. And so there was this like heart connection.
Which is why I go back and say, this is why I beyond a shadow of a doubt know that we're going to be okay for the long haul, because everybody I've ever heard who's done any kind of marriage seminar there are so many stories of people that leave their spouse for someone they've never met because they have this deeper soul connection with that person. It cannot be just physical based. Having physical is great, and I'm thankful that we both have that with each other, but that can't be what the marriage is based on, because the physical body is going to change. Either someone's going to gain weight, somebody's hair is going to fall out. That'd be me. Somebody's not going to have all their teeth someday. Somebody's going to get old and wrinkled. That stuff's going to.
And that's like we truly fell in love with the character and all of that of the
person
other
of each other. Yes.
And as scary as that seems, that we said I love you before we even actually met, that seems crazy. And if my daughter told me that, I'd be like, no. But it made sense for us in a weird way.
Well, it's funny enough. If Lucy, Nate, or Mark said what we said about the circumstances, I would actually believe it, because there is a spiritual and a soul connection that will go to the point of where if I showed up and you didn't even look like your picture, but then we started talking and I realized, yes, I had been talking to you.
But then I would have lied to you.
I would have had to have overcome that. But there would have still been this thing of why did you give me a different picture? This is still who you are. The voice matches, the character matches. So why'd you do a different picture? But you didn't. Thankfully.
I don't even think we could take pictures and send them on our phones to each other. I don't think you could.
No. What? You couldn't.
I don't think I could.
You couldn't text the picture. No. Not really yet.
So we saw each other's like
profile uploads,
and we saw when we loaded pictures on Facebook or
whatever. You could you could upload and say I've got.
But it wasn't like I could take a picture of what I was doing and send it to you real quick.
Not in that moment. No. You'd have to upload it to the site.
That was back in the old days.
Yeah, you'd have to upload the picture to the site. It would have to be approved, and then the person could see it. That's how it would work back then. So no, or you would upload to your Facebook, and then I would see it.
It was a whole different time.
It was a whole different animal.
Because now I'm like, there's so many ways that we could have.
Yeah.
Done like more like face-to-face stuff, like
right.
taking pictures, taking videos,
FaceTime.
sending each other FaceTime.
Yeah.
But all we had was the phone. And thankfully, I mean, I know of people who went long distance relationships and they didn't even have cell phones.
Right.
So I'm thankful for that.
Right.
But
write letters.
Yeah. Letters and like call long distance and only talk for like a second because it's so expensive.
Right.
And we could at least wait till certain hours. And then that's probably why we did weekend like long calls, is because on the weekends there was free minutes too.
Right.
So.
Yeah. And we would look forward all week to talk to each other.
Yeah.
So we did that. You bust into tears.
Yeah.
Literally, it took you about 10 seconds to register what happened. But then after about 10 seconds in tears, I heard you say, "I love you too." Yeah. And in that moment, how much of you was like, "Don't say it. Don't say it. Don't say
Well,
it.
I just felt, because I'm a very logical person.
Yeah.
And I just felt like I know what my heart feels, but this seems illogical.
Right.
You know?
How can I love someone I've never met?
Right. I mean, we had met, just not in person, I like to say.
Which again, it goes against all the traditional things because
Well, and like the traditional thing of like, you're supposed to date for a long time before you say I love you. And, you know.
like the 3-week rule or 3-month rule or whatever
Some
it
people
is.
do, like,
longer than that. Yeah.
But I'm always I always tell people I love them. I don't believe in like,
But we knew what we meant.
yeah, but I don't believe in like holding, you know how some people are like, I knew I loved you, but then they wait like 6 months to say it.
Yeah.
Like I never was like that. Like I love my friends. I love my family. And every single time I talk to them, I love you, you know?
Yeah.
And so to me, it wasn't like this huge thing to say I love you to someone else if I felt that.
Right. But come on, you didn't say it with that.
No,
we both knew what we
But
meant.
that's
when
what
we
I'm
said
saying
it.
though. Like,
Yeah.
some people feel that, but just are scared to say it. And I never really was scared to say it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
I do know what you mean. And so it was just one of these things. And then of course we both immediately almost took it back because again, your logic then kicks in. Should I have done that? Did I just scare her? Did he just get scared that she actually said it back? You know? So all of that began to happen.
Here we are 15 years later. So
I mean, yeah,
it worked.
but I mean, yeah, we know it worked. But again, like you said, if our kids ventured down these similar paths, how would we as parents now?
I would be like, you're going too fast. You're going to get your heart broken.
Okay, let me ask you that. Did you tell your mom and dad?
I didn't tell them that. I don't think.
I didn't tell my mom and dad either.
Because I just felt like that was
I didn't want to have any potential person talk me out of how I felt about you.
right. Same. Like I know how I feel, and we're just going to let, it be what it, see how it goes.
Yep. So I drive down Saturday morning, April the 19th, to meet you for the very first time. And I pull into the address you gave me. I walk up.
Dad's house.
I walked up to
My mom and dad were at the church because there was a fine arts, like a youth competition.
Fine
so
Arts
they
Week.
weren't there. I think one of my brothers may have been there, but
yeah, I think both your brothers were competing.
I don't know. I feel like I wasn't alone there. I feel like somebody was there with me, but I don't remember.
I don't think anybody was in the house with you.
No.
Maybe your mom was about to come back or about to leave.
I don't know. I just remember like there being people around, but maybe not.
Yeah. But I walk up to the door, ring the doorbell. You answer. I remember the dress you were wearing.
Describe it. I want to see if you really remember.
The dress you were wearing, which you kept and wore several times after, was a dress with a lot of blue. It almost looks like water droplets, but it's actually kind of like flower petals.
It was sunflowers.
Yeah.
It had like, I feel like it was like, it could have been navy blue or it could have been black, but it was like a black top.
Yes.
And then it went into like the bottom skirt part was like, I think it was sunflowers.
Yes. Yes.
You got it mostly right.
Yeah, I remember the flower look, and I remember the different shades of blue. I don't remember the sunflowers, but
I feel like it was.
But
I could be wrong.
I remember the blue because immediately when I looked up at you after seeing what you were wearing, your eyes were ice blue, and the pictures don't do that justice. The pictures don't make your eyes look darker than they are.
Yeah.
But Jessica, for those of you who ever meet her in person, she has ice blue crystal eyes. They're absolutely gorgeous.
Really light. Yeah.
They're really light. And so I saw that she opened the door, looked me in the eyes, just simply said hi with her big smile. And one of the handful of times I can bet every ounce of my life and all my money on that the Lord spoke to me. I opened the door, saw her, looked her in the eye, and the Holy Spirit said to me, "This is her. Now don't screw it up." And he didn't say it in a condescending way. He said it in a joking, "Hey, don't have fun tonight. Don't screw it up," kind of thing. But it was that attitude. This is her. Now don't screw it up. And we walked in, and we just started immediately connecting. I hugged. I connected, and then I did something else that was stupid. I kissed her within 30 minutes.
I didn't know we were going to go into all of these details.
But this is the stuff they want to hear. Yes, I could not.
Well, we felt like we knew each other so much.
Yeah, it was just so real. It was so for real. That was the biggest thing. It was we had already. I felt like we had already been a couple by this time, so it felt natural to kiss you. It felt like this is my girlfriend. I mean, I want to kiss my girlfriend right now. And even though I literally just met you a few minutes ago, it's like this was the natural next thing for me to do. But to me, it didn't
feel like we just met. Like
No,
I never
no,
felt like that.
no.
Like we anyway.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. It wasn't like this. There was this need to ask permission. It was like I knew I had your permission because I knew you loved me, and so it was just such a. It was so easy, and I think that's one of the biggest things that I really hope people hear me when I say this. If you have to work at the relationship. Not saying it's not supposed to be. Maybe you have to work through some things, but typically when it's God's will for you, there should be a sense of
as socially awkward as I am with so many people, I never felt socially awkward with you. Like we just immediately were able to talk and connect, and I feel like we grew up very similarly. Our families are very similar. But anyway, we only stayed there for a little while, and then we went to the church, and I introduced you to my parents.
Yep. And your dad gave me a very firm handshake because I think you were still. I'm not going to say you were still. I know that you were still in rebound mode with me because I don't think that's true at all. But you had been hurt, and they were. And this is another guy off the very same website. Yeah. So I'm sure there was a little bit of please work out, don't hurt my girl.
No. I don't really remember that, but we stopped by there.
Mm-hmm. Before we went to lunch.
And you took me to Moe's.
Welcome to Moe's.
I honestly do not remember anything we talked about at Moe's.
I don't either.
It was really good to be
I think we were still like, is this really happening?
Yeah, we're actually sitting down together.
Yep. And then
looking at each other.
And then after that, we went to see a movie. Mm-hmm. As always, we're both very good with our money, and so we wanted to see a matinee, so we don't spend all the full ticket price. And I think she actually was attracted even more to me that I suggested that because you're very you're thrifty too. You don't
I'm
like
cheap.
Yeah, you're not. Well, you're not cheap. You're frugal.
Yes,
we're both frugal. We don't like spending money all the time. But
we went and saw that movie.
21.
21. Yeah.
Yeah. The movie about the guy that is really smart.
Blackjack.
Yeah.
Cards.
Counting cards. And I enjoyed it. That was a good movie. And because of that, nostalgically, it's one of my favorite
good
movies.
Memory.
Because it's a good memory. I
haven't seen it since then, I don't think.
I've seen it like twice since then. I love that movie. And then after that, did we just go back to your house and hang out for a little while?
I don't remember.
I'm trying to remember what we did after that, but I know for dinner we went to Olive Garden.
Yeah, we spent all day together. We ate lunch, went to a movie, then we went to dinner. Mm-hmm. Then we went back to my house for a while, I think.
Maybe for a minute, and then I had to go home.
I remember being impressed that he said at the end of the date, he said, I need to go home because I told my mom I wouldn't be on the road too late.
Yeah.
And I'm going like, oh, he told his mom. And she's a mom that cares that he's on the road and he cares what she thinks. And I liked that.
Yeah. Which
because he had like a 2.5 hour drive back to.
Right. And I also was raised, and my mother taught me this, how you treat me and learn to treat me will be a very good indicator of how you'll treat your wife. Mm-hmm. And Jessica and I have such a comfortable relationship with you because my mom and I are so similar. Mm-hmm. My mom and I both have tempers. We're both very outspoken. We're both very outward in our demeanor. And so mom and I actually butt heads more than me and my dad do because mom and I are just, we just are so similar.
Anytime you're similar with someone, you're,
So I'm so comfortable with mom that I'll speak my mind to mom. And because of that, I've learned to do that with you, I just speak my mind to you. Whereas with my dad, there's a little bit more of a reverent fear of him because my dad is not a talk all the time person. And so when he does speak, it's usually very...
I just remember being like, okay, he's being considerate of his mom.
Yeah.
You know, you weren't trying to stay there till 2 a.m. or anything. And
well, I was also trying to be respectful of you and your family.
Yeah.
You know, that we're not engaged. We're not married.
No, not even close.
Yeah. So we haven't even been together 6 months. I should not be here this late. You know, that's my whole thing. It's just the right thing to do. If you have no business being there past like 9 o'clock, don't be there. You know, you need to go home.
But the hard thing is like when we say goodbye and every time we saw each other in this whole time of us being so far apart.
Right.
I remember it just being so sad because we didn't know the next time we would see each other in person because like I said, we were so far apart.
Right.
So it was a sad thing when we had to go back to our separate ends of the state.
Yeah, basically, because then not long after that, you were going back to school.
Yeah,
so,
I was only there. Like I would come home for the weekends and I would drive back.
And you came up to spend a few times with me that summer.
Your dad's birthday.
My dad's birthday, which was a month later.
That's when I met them for the first time.
You met my mom and dad when my dad turned 50 for the first time.
Yep.
Yep. and that was fun. Was there was there an anxiety for you meeting my parents?
It's always nerve-wracking meeting the parents, but I will say I do very well with parents usually. I usually do better with parents than...
Was my dad Robert De Niro? Did he scare you?
No, I feel like because I am not, like I said, I've been 80 my whole life. Like I don't party. I'm very much like...
You leaned on me for everything. Where's David? I don't want to be in a room without David. I want David to always talk first.
Well, like I said, I'm socially awkward. And
Yeah.
so I of course I was nervous, but
Yeah.
I wanted it to go well because I knew that family was very important to both of us.
Right.
And I remember us the first time we met your family, as me and you just sitting there and talking to your mom and dad for a long time and just hanging out with them. And it didn't feel weird at all. It felt like our families are very similar.
Yeah, they are.
They're very, very similar.
Even to the fact of our moms have baby sisters almost the exact same age difference, which is crazy.
Yeah.
that
There's
happened.
a lot of similarities with our family.
Yep.
And then not only did I have to meet your family on that trip, like your mom and dad, and let's just say I fell in love with Kevin, probably harder than you.
Yeah.
Just kidding. But David has an autistic brother.
Who loves Jessica.
I had never been around anyone with autism, so I really didn't know what to expect. But I remember, so I came and I spent the weekend at his mom and dad's house. And y'all had to go like for practice for sound check because you and your mom played in the worship team. And Kevin sat by me on the front row and we just watched. And it wasn't long at all before he reached over and held my hand.
Yeah, he liked you.
I know, and it was so sweet. And so I just loved meeting him. But not only did I have to meet him and your mom and dad, but I met the entire family.
Yes. Because the majority of my family, probably 90% of my family lives within 45 minutes of each other. So when my dad's turning 50, everybody and their mama
and not only
is
did I
coming
have to meet
this.
them, it was a pool party.
Yes.
I had to meet them in my bathing suit.
Yes.
That was very awkward, but
Yes.
I really did love meeting everyone, and I felt right.
Was
at
it?
home.
Was there? What was the immediate comparison? Because I really only got to meet your immediate family. So
that's the biggest difference with our families is I didn't grow up with extended family close by. Our family lived 4+ hours away, like all the aunts and uncles and grandparents.
kind of like
and all
we
that.
do now.
Right. So very much more similar to our life now. David grew up with all of his family in the same town. And so that was exciting because it's like you have family all the time.
Yeah, and the reason is because my father and my grandfather started a company in my hometown. And as it began to get legs, they called all the family and said, come be a part of this with us. If you feel the Lord leading you, come and join the company and help us build it into something special. And within a decade, they were doing business in multiple states. Within 20 years, they were doing business in 30+ states. And a lot of it was because all the family got involved on both sides, dad's side and mom's side.
I just thought it was awesome. I thought it was awesome that you got to grow up with so many cousins and your grandparents.
Yeah, so everybody was so close because of that.
And all of that. That's an awesome thing. I wish our kids had that.
Yeah, me too.
I also know what it's like for our kids because I was like that one.
There were times when it was like, do I have to see them again? And now looking back, I scold myself for thinking that way. But yeah, there was so many times when everything revolved around family, and sometimes there was a lack of individuality because everybody identified you with. I mean, even to this day, when I go home and people know me, they know me as Brother Henry's grandson, and so I'm always paired up with somebody. Or you're Dwight and Janine's kid. Everybody always knows me as that, and so there was no real sense of individuality, which I am a little bit thankful that our kids have the life they have because they'll be associated with us.
They'll be the pastor's kids.
Yeah, they'll be the pastor's kids, but they're gonna have a lot more personal, in terms of being able to explore who they are with friends that they have and the school they have and the church they have. So, but I mean, it was the best of both worlds. I mean, we loved every part of it. But as we kind of bring this first chapter in, I mean, that was kind of the first 3 months of our relationship was from probably March when we started talking through April and then through the summer before we got into the fall time when you would have to go back to Mobile to go back to school.
I was in that summer. I was in nursing school. I didn't get to take the summer off. So the only time we could see each other was if I had a weekend where I could come. So I wasn't even home for the summer that year.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Because once you start nursing school, it's 5 semesters straight, or at least that's how my school did it.
Right.
So you went fall, spring, summer, fall, spring. Mm-hmm. So there was no like summer vacation, none of that. But I do remember that, yes. So right when we first started dating, me and Mom went on that cruise.
That's right.
And I remember like calling you from Mexico.
And it was so stupid because I thought she was going to fall for somebody on the cruise.
You did?
Yes. I was like, she's going to go off on this cruise and forget all about me.
We did that because my mom and dad were taking my brothers on a family vacation, and I couldn't go because I was going to not have a summer vacation because of nursing school. And so I had like a week or 2 break.
Right.
And me and Mom went on a short cruise. And I remember being so sad because if you've been on a cruise, you know, you can't just pick up a phone and call.
Right.
And so we weren't going to be able to talk for a while. But I remember being able to call you for like real quick, like when we were in one of our ports and getting to talk to you.
Yeah. And I think I even made the joke and said, "No, you're going to know who I am when you get back," right? Yeah. It was an interesting early part to our relationship. And I'm sure in a later episode, we'll talk about, you know, when we finally felt that, yeah, we wanted to take this to the permanent level and how that all happened, and we'll get there. But I treasure those early months. I treasure how I'm actually proud of how well we handled it.
Well, it's like so exciting when you start a new relationship and you're learning everything about the other person.
Everything's new.
Yeah, it's really, really exciting, and the connection we had was really strong, even though we were so separated by distance.
Do you get the feeling, and I know this is chasing a whole different topic of conversation, but do you get the feeling that's why a lot of people don't commit, is not maybe afraid of the long term, but they love the new? Maybe they love the constant.
I think if you've been in a relationship for a while, it's a challenge to come up with new, to learn about each other. Yeah, because, you know, you kind of can get in a rut of, well, I've heard all the stories I've done, but you know, what we've found is
I know what she wants on her salad. I know what her favorite movie is.
You heard all the like funny stories of when we were kids.
Yeah.
But that's why like date night and taking trips together and stuff like that is so important, is because I love when I can learn something about you new that I've never heard before.
What about today?
Well, I don't know. Yeah. I've heard this a lot. I've heard this story before. I lived it.
Yeah. You were there.
I was there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But again, I'm proud of us. I really am. I'm proud that we both made sure that in the midst of this, we were constantly listening to God and wanting to make sure, God, I don't want to fall for this person for the wrong reasons. I want to fall for this person because you want me to fall for this person. And I'm also very proud of us in how we immediately roped our families in and said, we don't want to do this wrong. Neither one of us, I don't think, did, besides telling you I love you after only a month and never seeing each other. I don't think either one of us ever did anything that anybody would look at and go, yeah, that's kind of quick, or that's over the line, or things like that.
You may think like, oh, y'all must have got married after like 2 months because y'all said I love you. But no, we dated for a long time before we got engaged.
I told Jessica, I will not ask you to marry me for a minimum year. I told her that.
Well, I had over a year before I was going to be out of nursing school.
Right.
And I knew like I am not going to be available to do any sort of wedding stuff.
Yeah. When we finally got to the point of talking about engagement, and we'll tell our engagement story in another episode. But when we finally got to that point, I just remember telling her, saying, look, I know the pressure. I had a cousin who got married and went to college, and what that did to their marriage. I'm not doing that to us. If we are supposed to be together, you're worth waiting for. Yeah. So let's make sure that we do this in the best, most healthy way possible.
Well, I think too, like, just like enjoying your singleness.
Yeah, of course.
It was also really special to just enjoy.
Treasure our dating time.
Yeah, our dating time and then our engagement. We really did not rush into.
No.
I mean, we were young too. I mean, there's no rush when you're 22.
No.
I mean, you've got time on your side. So maybe if we had been like 35, we would have rushed more.
Yeah, at that point, the clock's against you.
Ticking.
Yeah, you don't want to push things off too much, but you still want to do things the right way. Yeah, I look back with fondness on those memories, and I'm so thankful God protected us, and I'm so thankful God was real and steered our hearts in the right direction to make us fully aware that we were talking to the right people. And I kind of, maybe we can end on this. So I told you the first time I physically saw you when you opened the door that God spoke to me and told me you were mine. go ahead and end by
I
saying,
told David this before.
yeah, end with, tell the listeners, when did you firmly know David's my person?
Well, David has this thing where he's always, and if you know him and you've ever been around him, you know that he loves me. Like he shows he loves me. Like I never have to worry about it. Everybody tells me.
I'm so good at acting. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Everybody tells me like there's not a doubt in our mind that he loves her because he's just so outwardly showing it. And anytime we were on a date, he was just above and beyond asking if I was okay. I remember one time I had a headache. He immediately, I hadn't gotten the words out of my mouth. You immediately pulled over and went into a pharmacy and got me medicine. Like just how like thoughtful you were. But the day that really
It drives her crazy now.
No.
I'm fine.
But the day that really sealed it was, I don't remember exactly which trip this was, but it was early on. I had broken a plate, like a Corel ware.
It was at your house.
Yeah, it was at my mom and dad's house.
It was in your basement.
I had broken up. I don't know how exactly it happened, but there was some sort of broken like glass, but really thick glass. And I had stepped on it and it had embedded itself into my foot, like really deep.
Yeah, she was bleeding.
And it was very painful. I tried to get it out. I couldn't get it out because of how bad it was. And he sat there with my foot and you like painstakingly got this glass out of my foot. Like you were so gentle and you were so caring. And that really...
I would just yank it out now.
I know. You're like, shut up. Stop crying.
I wouldn't.
I know you wouldn't. But I just remember thinking, like, you take really good care of me. You're going to be a good husband. You're going to be a good dad. Like, I just remember thinking that. And, like, the people I had been with before, they may have been nice, but you were just, you really did treat me with care. And I feel like in this whole, like, feminist world, you know, people may think that that's a lost art, you know, like
chivalry's dead.
Yeah. But women want that. Like, I believe that still. Like, women want to be cared for. You know, we want you to buy our dinner and we want you to open the door for us and we want you to dig glass out of our foot.
Do you really believe that deep down every woman has that desire?
Yes.
I do, because I think God put that there.
I like the quote on the Golden Girls that say, we don't want to be treated just like you. We want to be treated way better than you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, Rick Burgess said it best this way. I don't need to get in touch with my feminine side. I married her. I mean, I think here's a crazy novel idea. Men should act like men and women should act like women, and men and women should treat each other accordingly.
But I think when you say that, some people think like how you would treat me, like you treat me like a man would treat a woman, but that's gentle.
Yes.
You know, you didn't like.
That's biblical. Paul said, treat them as the weaker vessel.
Yeah.
Not saying they are, treat them as if they are, because they're precious. They should be treated that way.
And I'm so thankful that you are that way because, you know, right after we got married, I had back problems and the pregnancies were hard and recovering after labor. And like, there's so many ways like that I needed that. I needed that trait.
And I'm not perfect. And there's been times I can honestly say I've probably mishandled you and not been as gentle as I should have been. And there's been times probably that, you know, that you probably have not looked at me the way that I need to be looked at certain times. But that's the great thing about marriage is we have time to work it out.
Oh yeah.
And we have time to figure things out.
I'm not saying our marriage has been 100% perfect from that day forward.
Yeah, it has. We just don't talk about it. No.
But I think we have a really strong marriage, and a lot of it I can say is because of those early days of our relationship and the foundation we built it on.
Yeah.
So,
absolutely. Well, bringing this in for a landing, I think if we can leave anything with our listeners, it's if you're out there and you have been married for a long time, or you just got married, or you're wanting to be married, treasure those early days. And if you have been married for a long time, recreate them. You know, like, find a way to bring the mystery back.
That is hard. Like, we get in the rut of life, and not being able to go on dates and stuff. But like, find the times you can connect with each other. Yeah. Because remembering why you fell in love and not just being like daddy and mommy and, roommates
Yeah.
and, all this stuff, partners in ministry.
Absolutely.
Finding the ways you fell in love and keeping that alive.
Yeah, as much as you can, go on a date, schedule one-on-one
Date nights at home.
Dame nights at home, get away for a weekend. If all you can get is one night away somewhere,
Yeah.
take it. That's why we made it a point for a year in the planning. We had to get on this cruise because we had to have time to remember. And this is the best way to leave it. The two most opportune times for couples to get divorced are right after they get married, when they realize maybe this was a bad idea, or after the kids grow up and move out, and you look at each other.
Your whole marriage is based
and
on,
you realize I've been living with a stranger. I don't even know who this person really is.
And
we've just made it a point to say that will not be us.
And our kids deserve to have a mom and a dad who put their marriage first. It's going to make them better,
right,
when we can take breaks and we can work on our marriage and we can be stronger.
Yes,
that's important.
Yeah, because Lucy's watching how I treat you and saying that. And I told Lucy that you need to watch how I treat your mother. And if you ever meet a man who treats you better than me, then marry him. That's always been my quote to her. And I hope she's taking that to heart. You have to model what a husband looks like in front of your sons and in front of your daughter. And you need to model what a wife looks like in front of your sons and in front of your daughter. And you have to make sure that you treat that. Because at the end of the day, the best way to be a godly mother and a godly father is, first of all, to be a godly husband and a godly wife. And we want to make sure that we do that as best we possibly can, with, of course, Christ being the center of our marriage, because he is. So any final thoughts you want to throw in there?
No, that was fun. Memory lane.
Memory lane. Memory lane's got a lot of stops on it. So hopefully we'll be able to.
15 years of memories.
Yeah, we got 15 minutes. That's a long interstate. We'll have a lot of pull-offs to experiment it. But as always, Jess, I love you.
I love you.
And thank you to all of you who are watching and listening to this. And we'll catch you in the next episode. Until then, I'm the husband.
I'm the wife.
We've been married 15 to life. Appreciate y'all.
Bye, guys. Bye.